My name is Allie. I also work with DSP's customer service comms. I'm a writer. And I'm going to take you on a whirlwind tour of using BigQuery, or how to do real-time analysis using BigQuery and a Jupyter notebook. It's going to be excellent. So that's me. We're going to do a quick overview of Jupyter not from a how do you run it perspective, because Anton covered that, but from a why is it super useful perspective, and what is BigQuery, and how does that integrate. Then I'm going to talk about what you can do in the Terra app. We're going to create a cohort with the Data Explorer for a public data set. And then we're going to do a hands-on exploration of one of the notebooks. I was going to do two, but since I want to get you guys off to lunch in a timely fashion, I'm going to run only one of the notebooks. The second notebook is called Access Data, I think, something like that, with BigQuery, and it's pretty standalone. You could run through it by yourself, and it would explain what it does. So I'm going to do the other one. Okay? We're ready? All right. So what do Jupyter notebooks give you? They give you interactive analysis, so you can visualize and iterate in real time. You don't have to wait for your computations to get done on a machine to see what the results are. So that's really exciting. When you use it with BigQuery, which can hold a huge amount of tabular type data, you can analyze data of any size or format. We talked about, or Anton and Robert talked about how it's great to have an elastic compute and data storage platform. Oh, pressing the wrong button. So there's our Google things. And is that better? That is better. I could hear it. Yeah, okay. So nice thing about notebooks is you can pass off your notebook to a colleague or maybe a grad student who's starting to work for you. And since it has everything, because you've documented your code, analysis code well, they can read it and actually reproduce what you are doing and get up to speed really easily. You can send it to your colleague who is in Europe, and they can work on it on Europe time, and it's great for all those reasons. So how many of you have used data in BigQuery before? Quick hand raise. It's kind of a new-ish platform. It's new to Terra. So I'm going to give a brief overview of what it is. This is from the Google Cloud Platform website. You can kind of tell. It's a fast, highly scalable, tabular data warehouse product, built-in machine learning, fully managed and run by the Google Cloud Platform. Great. What does that mean? It's got a tree architecture. It's like a giant spreadsheet in the cloud. But it's set up to do queries really, really efficiently, especially if you want to pick out only one small portion of it. It doesn't scan, it doesn't go row by row or column by column to get your information. So, and it can use thousands of machines in parallel. So it scans large data sets efficiently. Since you work at the BroadE and you work with genomics data, you are well versed in large data sets. This is perfect for that. It can be 10 times faster than working on your local machine. So that's a huge advantage. And I like this quote. I don't know if you can see. It comes from Quora. Sorry, it's down at the bottom, which is a little cheesy. But think of it as a magical relational database that you can put trillions of rows and petabytes of data into easily, and then query it all using standard SQL. I thought it was cute. So what kind of things can BigQuery do? There's a lot of integrated analysis tools. On the right, there's a partial list of standard SQL functions. It has machine learning that's built in. You can query in R, as I'll show you, or Python using a notebook. A lot of the standard SQL functions are not adequate for the level of science that you're doing. But when you couple it with R packages, you can pretty much reproduce anything you could do on your local machine. So that's great. So it accelerates your results and insights because you can do queries really quickly. As we're We're not going to do anything too crunchy because 60 of you running expensive queries may be not so good for the BroadE. But you can imagine scaling it and doing, studies of thousands of participants, and that's really exciting. Scalable, so you can do basically as many genomes and experiments as you like and can afford in parallel. So there's already a lot of genomics stuff, information, data in BigQuery. There's been a move by the cancer genomics to put things in BigQuery, which means that the data is already there, it's already been massaged, and it's in a good format. You don't have to mess with that, so that's great. I'll give you some examples. This is a list of genomics data that's already available in BigQuery. Some of it's public access, some of it's not public access, but whatever you do your work on, you would have access to, obviously. And then there's a list of annotations and stuff that's available. Little plug, if you have data on-prem that you want to move into the cloud because you want to use it on Terra or something like that, Bits will help you move it quickly and efficiently and in the most cost-effective way into the cloud. So just a little plug for them because you're BroadE employees and that's a nice perk. So let's talk about what is built in to help with BigQuery in Terra. When you go to the front screen, you get the Welcome to Terra. You see there, you know what? This is the old look. So it's a little changed. But you can get to browse data. Terra hosts a number of data sets, some of which are tabular format. In FireCloud could only handle data sets that were not tabular data, right? So it couldn't do clinical data, it couldn't handle medical record data, all that kind of stuff. That's a brand new feature of Terra, which is really exciting because it expands the kind of research that you can do. So what does that allow you to do? You can explore questionnaire type of data, and you can couple it with genomic data if you want. You can generate custom cohorts, which we're actually going to do. And you can then export the custom cohorts to a Terra workspace. So I am going to walk you through doing this. I'm going to show you on the slide what it's going to look like, and then we'll transition over there. Sound good? OK, so and I apologize, I didn't update the screenshot. So what you are going to want to do, and I'll get off the slides in a second, if you go to the top left of your Terra screen, the hamburger menu, right? And if you click on that, it's a menu. And if you go under Explore Datasets, it's kind of halfway down, and click on it, you will get to this screen. Is everyone there with me? Yeah. It's under yeah, I apologize. So it's exciting to be on the cusp of a new platform, but it does sometimes make it challenging when they change the interface to make it better. OK, so I'm going to close this. Maybe I won't close it. OK, so data sets under the data library. Let's go under 1,000 genomes. Let me say there's a lot of data sets, and you probably don't have access to all of them. If you click, you notice that, like right here, there's a grayed out one. You probably have more grayed out ones than I do. If you click that, it will, in general, it'll take you to information of how to get access. So that just means you don't have access. But we'll go to 1,000 genomes. And I should make this bigger. There we go. So each of these boxes is a parameter within the 1,000 genomes BigQuery table. So each of these is a column, and you can create your own cohort by selecting what you want. Say I want to look at women who are, I don't know, we have low low coverage BAMs, and they are Finnish in Finland. And I see that I have 61 participants, maybe enough to do a study. So for the purpose of the exercise, I would like you to make a cohort. Pick whatever parameters you want. You noticed how quick that was. One of the things this does allow you to do is to hone in on what studies are possible. Because if I clicked my parameters and there were 2 people available that had that information, I would know I would have to expand my study. So that's nice. So once you've selected your parameters, and whatever they are is fine, take a note of how many participants you have. Just keep it in your mind. And we're going to do save cohort. Okay? So what this is doing is it is generating a SQL BigQuery that you can then use to get that metadata. We're all on the same page? All right, so name it something, and I'm going to name it Allie's test cohort. And you can name yours whatever you want. Although I suggest naming it something that makes sense to you, because as you'll see, it's going to show up in your workspace, and you're going to want to be able to quickly know which one you want. So select your workspace and select the one that you cloned that we're working in. Oh, I have so many. Hopefully you don't have so many. I don't remember what I started it with, though. I remember what's in the middle. Oh, no. No, it does. OK. There, this is mine. OK, and then if you click Import, it now is going to redirect you to the workspace where you just put it. And if you look down here, see how it says cohort? Mine has 2 because I did a test cohort yesterday. Yours should have 1. And if you click on it, there is your your cohort that you just created. Does everyone see that? Yep. Awesome. So great, you've created this test cohort. You notice over here, this is for those of you who are familiar or at least can recognize SQL. This is the query in there. However, if you go over to your Notebooks tab, you don't actually have to know SQL or query language in order to do this. We're going to go to Retrieve a Cohort with BigQuery and open that. And it should open quick because your cluster is already there. Is everyone? Mine is taking a minute.
Because we're all doing it at the same time.
Yeah, I know. So, but I can answer questions. Is everyone created a cohort and you're opening, and yours is probably, yeah.
How you get there?
How do I get?
Yeah, click Notebooks.
Click on Notebooks, so it's yep.
It has nothing visible as Notebooks.
Yeah, nothing came up.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
No, when in the last session, were you running the R environment setup, but it's not showing up? Anyone else having problems, or how many people's notebooks are taking as long as mine to spin up? No, yours are all done. OK.
How do you get back to the notebooks from one notebook?
So you can't see it in mine, but there's a little X. It's pale green, upper right of the notebook. Your notebook is open. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Right. So if you click on the pale X, it'll close whatever notebook you're in, and then you can get back to all the notebooks cards. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. OK.
Cluster doesn't pause at that point. It stays running, so you can
Right.
go back to it.
Even
Right.
though
Can you say a little bit about?
It says that you're shut down the kernel.
Just this network.
Can you say a little bit about generally navigating So for example, would you ever want to use the back button on your browser, or is that should be strictly avoided? I noticed that although the header is kind of confusing, you can actually click backwards in the directory tree. It's listed in the green header.
Oh, okay. That'll take you back? Okay.
So generally, how would you get back to the menus that said notebooks and workspaces?
So in general, what you would do, and I think I can safely,
You can safely click the X.
so if you click the X, it'll
Safely
take,
hit backspace or the back
Right.
arrow, or there's a link in the top bar.
and you notice my cluster up here is still running even though I clicked the X. So I didn't stop the cluster, which means that when I go back and click on the notebook, it should show up right away. Yeah, there was another question.
Generally discourage using the back button on the browser.
I haven't seen any issues with it.
Yeah.
I frequently accidentally hit backspace, and I haven't had any errors.
It shouldn't impact your cluster or anything.
Autosave period is, how often does it autosave?
It's supposed to autosave every 5 or 10 seconds. I don't,
It's possible if you use the back button,
right, I guess that's,
the X might autosave.
right. If you had edited something and it, right, yeah. But the autosave is so you'd lose 5 seconds worth of work potentially.
So that's not possible.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
No, that's okay. That's okay. I'm waiting for everyone to catch up because it's more fun when everyone's exactly at the same spot, and yeah, so.
One of the questions I got, Ali, was about the colors in the table of contents.
Oh, okay. So when you run a cell, if the cell, correct me if I'm wrong, if the cell is running, it will turn red. If it's the cell that you're presently on, it is yellow. So there's a couple ways you can tell if a cell is running. It'll be red in the table of contents. We'll see that. Or it'll be, oh, and I've closed all mine, of course. Why is mine not? Why is mine not showing? Oh, yeah, oh, I'm up, yeah. So in here, it'll have an asterisk if it's running, right? So, and you see, so I'm on this one, BigQuery cohort examples, and over here, it's yellow. So you always know where you are, and you always know what's running. So if I were to do a run all, it would the red bar would page down as it ran the cells one by one by one, and the yellow bar would be at the end where it was. Make sense? So shall I? How are we do? How's she doing? Is it?
She's working on fixing an error, but
Okay. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna keep going. There's a lot of documentation in this notebook, so you can read along. I'm gonna kind of go fairly quickly so that we can page through it. I like to, when I'm giving a demo, run cell by cell, just so that I'm not rushing ahead or anything. So you can just kind of go with me, and you can do run. So don't open a notebook of the same name in a shared workspace because it's too easy to overwrite your colleagues. So this explains what we're doing. We're going to pull in the cohort that you just created that's in the workspace. We're going to pull it in, and we're going to do a very, very little bit of stuff with it, just so that you can verify that it's the cohort that you got. And you can imagine that once you pull it in with the beginning part of this notebook, you could do whatever analysis you wanted and your coding skills enabled. So you ran, and I ran this morning, the R environment setup. Often there are a few extra packages that are specific to this notebook that you'd want to run, so you can go ahead and run these two. You notice that there are nice comments, says exactly what they are right here, so we're loading additional packages, and then we're importing some Python modules for using Reticulate. the particular piece that this notebook uses to grab the cohort is actually Python code. But since this was an R notebook, we had to finagle it so it would use Python. So, okay, everyone's ran? Those run pretty quickly. We good? Okay. In the next section, we're going to set the project globals. So what this does is it's going to grab variables within the notebook so that you don't have to hard code things in. You don't have to put in the name of your workspace. You don't have to put in the name of the cohort that you created. It's going to be able to grab them automatically. It's really nice when you're passing this notebook off to someone else who's going to do something slightly different, or you all copied it into your own workspace. Imagine if I had to have you hard code in, I had to say, you know, okay, we're going to edit your workspace name. So that's what this section does. So you can just run through these really quickly. They should run very quickly. Okay. And you notice this one is still running. Done? Anyone still running? You're still running? Give it a few more seconds. Even computers are slow without enough coffee. So I want to call your attention to the fact that these notebooks that we give you all has enough documentation that if you had to leave an emergency, you could pretty much follow it by yourself on your own time. And it's really, really great as you're developing your analysis to document it well. It will pay off in spades. Say you come back to the work 6 months later, you don't remember exactly what you did, you can read the documentation and say, oh yeah, this is what this piece does. Little plug. Okay.
What happened to the name of the cohort that we gave it? It doesn't appear to be anywhere on the screen.
We're getting there. So see this get the cohort query right here? So if you read it, uses the reticulate library in R to execute the Firecloud API code, which is written in Python. This is the part that grabs the query. And so right here, we're getting Python versions of the workspace and project variables. And then in the next step, and I'll explain the comment, the next step, you see where it says cohort query right here? Right? So we're importing the variable, the cohort name right here. So it grabs, there's a workspace variable called cohort, and it's going to grab that. So on my workspace, I had to run this twice. There was a problem with well, you might see it.
After you run it, it tells you what.
Yeah, it tells you the error, right. How many of you had an error when you ran it the first time? Only.
But so what it grabs, so there was another one that was already there that I think we all had, American cohort, and that's the one it grabbed.
Right,
Oh.
your first row, I haven't tried this yet, but if you change the number to number 2 in that second band, it may give us a second row, I don't know.
Yep.
Okay, so change.
Okay, did you all hear that?
Sorry, this is a little bit Python-y, and I was still troubleshooting it last night, but this number here, 1, refers to the first row of the table.
Right here.
So basically, it's going to the table called cohort. It's looking at the first row, and it's pulling query, which is part of the attributes.
And when I made the workspace, I should have deleted my old query, so I apologize that you all got my Americans query. But now you learned, right?
Since I didn't create that, I deleted it, and then mine looks like it.
And so yours worked right the first time, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to run my cell again because I had this error. But you notice that this time it ran, and it's
That's the query. That's what the query is looking like.
right. And so
It's not an error. If it gives you, it prints out the query, that's not an error.
Yeah.
What's that called?
a sanity check. So yeah. So if you were nervous and you're like, okay, it's reaching into the cloud, how do I know that it's grabbing the query that I created? You can read here. It's going to give you the the SQL, and you can see, right? So if you look, I don't remember exactly what I did, but females right here and Finnish in Finland, right? Yeah. So whatever you guys put, those parameters should be in your query.
There was something that we needed to change in this. I didn't follow.
Okay, yeah, you just make that a 2.
Or two.
And then run it again. Yeah, because you got, yeah, you got mine. How are you guys doing? Did it grab your query? Yeah? Okay. Now, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to show people what it's actually doing if they're
Okay.
confused by this.
Yeah.
Because this might be a thing that you might need to do on your own. But it's actually going to, sorry,
No,
the data model. So I go up here. It's going to the data model. It's looking for the table called cohort. So those are called entities, you know, I don't know why. Cohort, and then it's looking for the row. And then it's, once it finds the rows, attributes means go look for a column name, and so it goes and looks for query. So if you only had one thing here, you'd have to say, go to cohort, go to row 1, and pick out query. But if you had to, so just keep that in mind. This is what it's actually doing for you. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Interruption.
That's okay. That's okay.
I don't want people to be confused.
Yeah. Make sense, though? Yeah. See what a well-documented notebook does? Kind of, seriously. And if you forget what we talked about today, when you open it up and run it yourself, you'll be all set. So I'm going to go down to where I was, and I will know where I was because the numbers will stop, right? So this was the last step that I ran. So now it has the variables, but it hasn't done anything. In step 4, it's actually going to call BigQuery. So run that. Should be pretty quick. Yeah, it took a little longer than I expected. Kind of depends on traffic. So, but it's done. And now, in the next cell, we're going to take a peek at the output. So remember, my query, well, you may not have remembered, but my query returned 61 participants. Here I have the first 10, and then it said with 51 more. Another sanity check. I've got the right number of participants, right? Pretty good. You guys all finding that?
I'm getting a different number.
You get a different number? What number do you get?
Well, the number doesn't fit with
Did you run it on my query accidentally?
No. So I have 10 participants here. And then it shows only 8 participants here. Same here. That was the query.
I'm going to let you troubleshoot. How about the rest of you? Did anyone get a different number? Or everyone else is good?
Sorry, repeat the number again.
So we printed out the first column, and it's a table with one column, and you notice right up here it says 61. So you get a different number too. Oh, that's because you ran it. That's my query. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you ran it. So you're running on my query, I think. That's the Americans. Yeah, yep, exactly. So if you wanted to run it on your query, you would want to go back, right? Go back to where it grabbed the cohort, right here, right? And where it says cohort entity. You don't want the first, you want the second row, because that will be your query. You see where I'm talking about? It's the code that's 2 above number 4. But see, it's nice. Like, say you had a number of queries that you had run and imported. You might want to use some of these to make sure you're dealing with the right one, or you're accessing the right one. Okay, so moving right along. Next thing we're going to do, and I've hard-coded in another query. We're going to run a second hard-coded in query. You could run a second query of your own, right? And then we're going to join it with this table. So if you run it, and it will run. And then we get a merge table. You notice that where I had, so before I had one column, this has two, right? So it's merged those two, and it's the same number of participants. And then the last little bit, there are lots of plotting exercises. This is a really simple one. It's funny, mine's going to be a boring plot because I believe this plots men versus women. And mine should come out, they should all be women.
He has 100% something.
Oh, right, of course. Yeah, I'm right. So unless you selected all women like I did, you should have 2 bars in your graph, and it'll be how many men are in that query and how many women. Yeah, I was expecting, never mind. So is that what everyone sees? Ish? So you could do whatever visualizations you wanted. And I know that I'm going through this kind of slowly, but you can imagine that you could do visualizations really quickly. So you could quickly get a handle on the type of data or different parameters. You could separate out and slice and dice in different ways and show that visually. So that's the end of this notebook. I have a few. Do I have more time, or are you up next? It's just lunch next? Okay. I do have one other notebook that I think it'll go quick, so why don't we're running a little ahead of schedule, so we'll go back to it. So you can close this notebook, and we're going to open Read Data from BigQuery. And as the notebook title suggests, this is going to show 2 different ways of doing a query in a notebook. And because it's a notebook that we're giving to you, it has lots of documentation to tell you exactly what we're doing. So you can run through the notes. So this is also querying 1,000 genomes. We're going to do it 2 different ways. It's going to return the same results. So I'm demonstrating for you the flexibility of notebooks. You're not restricted to one particular language. You're not restricted to one way of doing things. You can use standard SQL. You can use Python. You can use R. I think there are a few other coding languages that you want. But it's nice because you can use what you're comfortable with and you get the same result. So let's go through and do that. R environment setup, the usual. You should run the R environment notebook, which you've all done, the setup notebook. We got some additional libraries, so you can run that. And we get the pink standard out, but it's nothing to worry about. And set the project ID, which is going to enable us to query BigQuery to absorb those costs, authorize the BigQuery client, and then we're going to retrieve filtered data 2 different ways. The first is using standard SQL, which is what we just used in the last notebook, and then the second is using R packages that allow you to write in R and do the same thing. Okay? So let's go through and do it. So here's the query. Again, if you wanted to adjust this notebook so it grabs a query that's in your cohort that you had exported, you could do that. So here it's running the query, takes a second or 2 of execute time. It's taking a longer time than I expected. Maybe because everyone's doing? Are yours all taking this long, or are any of yours done? Yours are all done? It's just me.
I think there's some issue because you're at the top. At the top it says kernel idle.
Oh, So
Just adding a little minor.
should I restart the kernel?
Restart kernel or
Yeah.
refresh, either would probably.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right, and I'll run mine. And there, ran really quickly. Great. Oh. I restarted the kernel. I think I needed to redo the billing project ID, right?
Yeah.
So the libraries are fine, but I'll rerun these really quickly. I'm playing catch up to you. Okay, ran fine. So the next few cells are a little bit of a sanity check again. Here it's giving us the dimensions, so it has 1,086 rows and 10 columns, and we can get the headers from that. Oh. Did I have to
You might have to,
redo the libraries?
if you restarted the kernel,
I thought I just refreshed it. All right, let's try. So you can read the error messages and usually figure out what was wrong and go back and fix it. And voila. So I needed to run the library setup. So here's the headers. It tells me these are all the variables that I've pulled. Just a little bit of information. And then the next thing it's going to do is it's going to give us a plot of relationships of people in the participants that we've pulled. So we have this many who have children in the study, and this many who are children in the study, and et cetera, et cetera. So you've done that one way. Now let's try the second way. You can page through. So the third block is where it's actually running the query, right? Well, the fourth block, sorry, right here. And here we're printing out the SQL. I almost don't need to be up here because it is annotated, so I would just be repeating kind of what's in the block. But and if you go through, we have the same sizes, so it's returned the same thing. Same number of columns, same number of rows, and indeed the same plot. Good? Yeah.
Could you explain that line on the first cell under 3.2 that says virtual data frame? What does that mean?
3.2. Where are you?
So it says sample info is created from TPL with this dbcon input. So is this just a way of, like, I guess,
It's creating.
field tables would be big to load into your notebook. So this is, I guess my question is, what is this line doing?
Where I'm not. My line 10. Okay. Up. Okay. Create a virtual data frame. Right. I actually am not sure. I think it's creating a data frame, an R data frame that's specific to the notebook.
What's the error?
No, it's not an error. It's just a question. So it's create a virtual platform backed by a BigQuery table. I think it's the first. I don't code in R, so this is not my notebook. So I'm.
It's funny, like all the programming languages have their own lingo for table. It's
Right.
basically saying, make it a table that the notebook can read. Because, the BigQuery has a table, but it's not exactly the same as how R likes to have its table. So all it's doing is just saying,
Oh, so
make
it's
it a table
in the cloud.
in the cloud that this notebook
Can read. Make sense?
That's how I would interpret it. If anyone else has a different idea, please pipe up.
So that is my spiel. Anyone have any additional questions? There's one last notebook in the workspace that I think Anton mentioned. It's the Intro to Jupyter 101. It's pretty comprehensive, and it doesn't run, well, it runs little exercise codes, but it's a tutorial, basically. So it tells you how to edit cells and how to move cells around and all the nuts and bolts, and then it gives a few exercises to reinforce ideas, and it gives a lot of resources for Jupyter notebooks and what you can do with them and learning more about them. So that's it. Can I turn it over to you? Okay.
Thanks, Allie, and thanks everybody for coming.